Just read it.
Well, it's a
And they-
matter of the photos.
Well, they've got the photos.
Okay.
On
Well,
our website.
I,
So we will take them back.
okay, well, we'll see how. this
Never
goes.
mind, Caitlin. We end up losing the Zoom.
Well, I'll read what I can. If anybody can put some photos up for some of this perspective, that'd be great. How's that? I think the photos are important.
Okay.
Fine. Hello,
Go ahead.
I'm Bianca Trinker. I'm here to give voice to the people who cannot be here because they are at work or at home with kids after work or getting ready to go to their next job. For the past 10 days, mostly 4 days. Oh, okay. I've gone to the West Cliff Workforce to discuss affordable workforce housing. I'm presenting you with 140 signatures gained in those 4 days in support of the proposed affordable workforce housing, which could be located south of the tennis courts on Highway 69. These signatures are more than just names on papers. These are individuals who check you out at the grocery store, hardware, dollar stores. They serve your burgers, fries, coffee, ice cream, attend the gas station to stock your evening, beer and wine. They are also our community's teachers that teach our children. They are essential workers that run emergency calls for medical law enforcement as well as support medical clinic. Affordable housing is defined by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development as housing on which the occupant is paying no more than 30% of gross income on housing costs. This is where that slide would have been really poignant. Based on 2022 statistics for Custer County using 30% rule, the following illustrates what monthly housing costs should be. Teachers, $1,058. Law enforcement, $1,144. Medical semi-professional, $1,266. Minimum wage staff, currently at $1,444, is $754. As of 2022, Custer County was at 45% average. That means a third of the workforce, of course, is at 30% as recommended, but a full third is probably at 60%. That comes from the U.S. Census Bureau. Within the signature spheres were brought up by so many of me, heard loudly and often, including at board meetings, was the view and visual impact. As I've worked over the years in many fields with visual perception and what the mind can see versus the visual reality, I also wanted to offer some photos to help myself and others with visual reference. This is where it's really frustrating because
Is Zoom back on?
Yeah, and if we change you to host, we're gonna lose it again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's fine. We can, we do have it in our packets here,
yeah.
the images that you're trying to show us.
So what I did was I took photos, and there's several in the packet if it does end up coming up. Visual impact of these photos was the length of the entire Sunbury Crystal Mountain Range and the view, and showing buildings that we already all know are here. The highest point of several buildings, the hardware store, 36 feet. Downtown, there's a retail store at 36 feet, Bootleggers, 24 feet, Sugar Lump, 36 feet, Grandma's, 32 feet. The condos on Granada Corridor at 22 feet. Again, the visual impact was that you can still see so much. The Baptist Church at street level, 26 feet, the diesel repair shop over here. And these pictures I took at the southernmost edge of the neighborhood I live at. And showing the slope of the downhill as well. Other photos that were included by permission of the town manager and, measuring out where we were at. So there's 3 photos included, which have a red line at the highest height of 35 feet. Because I wanted to see, and I'm sure other people want to see, versus what their imagination helps them to see, what 35 feet, the max proposed housing at this point, what that looks like. The really most impactful photo is in Yoder's parking lot, immediately in the red zone of the closest point you could be to that, at the intersection 1 block over, and then at the park right here on Herman. So you can see what a height of 35 feet would look like. That's it.
Thank you.
When I read the article, I assumed, which you shouldn't assume, you were talking about the whole development. Are you just talking about the workforce?
So what I went around and talked to people about was, the support of the workforce housing. From my understanding, the DOLA grant goes into the entire 4 blocks, and I was provided a packet, which is being presented, by the town, the revised packet, to show people, so I wasn't misinforming anyone. The 4 blocks that the infrastructure for water and sewer would go into, but also showing the 2 building,
That would be on the workforce.
that would be for the workforce, yes. And then, several other pages of statistics provided by the town.
I would.
So the photos,
Yeah.
the photos are taken, proposed on those 2 buildings.
Okay, but when you talk to people, it included the whole area. So that's why they probably were agreeing to sign for it, because I've talked to other people, because they were thinking you were just talking the affordable housing. And so I would kind of like to address that just for 1 minute.
I actually presented them a map
Uh-huh.
with a visual provided by the town of the blocks proposed and the 2 buildings. And it shows where, I said, these are the affordable housing for the workforce buildings.
And so did they realize the impact of the other whole big area?
I did focus as far as my photos and the support on the workforce housing. But when questions came up and said, and I did say the DOLA grant is for the entire 4 blocks, and that those are privately owned, the town cannot mandate what people do with their own private property. I believe it's, and I tried to confirm each time I had a question, that it would be rezoned to multifamily, most likely sold for a profit, but at least we have a start with 48 units.
Your question, yeah.
Yeah, can you define workforce house?
So again, I was provided visuals by the town. From what I
How
understand,
does workforce housing differ from affordable housing and low-income housing and subsidized housing?
so
What is the difference?
so is
Workforce housing is a new term that I heard for the first time tonight, and I don't know what it is, and nobody has defined it.
I don't know if you want to define that. I can restate what you told me.
I don't mind answering. Paul, do you mind?
Let me just try to explain it to you, sir. This started out as affordable housing, and really our whole intention all along is try to develop dwellings that our workforces can live in, can afford to live in. And we, I think Custer County or Silver Cliff or both have been working on workforce housing. And that's a more appropriate term. And so it's not, quote, low income housing per se. It's 30% of your annual gross income, as Bianca would say. Which, so if you made $50,000 a year, $15,000 a year would be, quote, would fit into that definition. I'm sure if you make $1 million a year, you don't need that sort of thing, but that's what it's targeted at. Okay, so it's not targeted at people who don't have jobs. It's targeted at people who do have jobs who can't afford to live here. That makes sense? So,
So you use that 30%?
excuse me?
You will use that 30% as the,
Yes, that's the guideline. Mhm. By the way, it used to be 25%.
Yeah.
And just because I did print them out, does anybody sitting here want to
Yeah.
see these are the ones with the little red lines showing 35 feet.
We'll try to get them up again.
These are, so whoever wants to see those.
What is the town's requirements for height?
35 feet.
What is 35? That's how it was 30.
They're on the
35
screen.
feet.
So essentially, these houses would be based,
there
your rent would be based on your income.
That is correct. All right, so here's the photo. Bianca, I have start with this one.
Yeah.
I don't have that red line photo that you're handing out right now. I don't have that in the packet. But I do have these.
Okay. So the letters are places that I originally marked. I didn't bring or take photos of all those places, but I think there's 5 or 6 in there. And again, it's just to show a visual of some existing buildings that we're all used to seeing already. The two, again, I'm not a drafts person, so this is me on my tablet with my finger trying to recreate the squares that you drew on your map, but it's fairly close. Those are the 2 proposed sites. And you can see where Yoder's Furniture is, in the red line photos going around. There's one from Yoder's Furniture parking lot. This building, for example, this is right on the edge of, so when people say, you know, their view is going to be disturbed, there's actually almost 0 neighborhoods between the proposed 4 to 6 blocks and this way. The entire town is over here. My neighborhood, my house, this is where I walk my dog 1 block over from my house. So this is a diesel repair shop that was built. And I'm not complaining about the diesel repair shop. Again, I'm just trying to give perspective on what something actually looks like and, you know, how close up, that kind of thing. That diesel repair shop is 24 feet high. Those condos right there are 24 feet high. You can skip that one. Ace, the highest point, I'm sorry, the hardware store is 36 feet high, and you can see the mountains are still clearly visible. And I'm sorry, I wrote a wide view, it's supposed to be wide view. Long week. Again, this is from the closest neighborhood edge that would have the proposed building site from the actual town residents towards Mountain View. Can you go one more? And that's the Baptist church. I found this to be an interesting, that's 26 feet high. Again, an interesting part, again, to be furthered by the town, just again, giving a visual perspective. You can still clearly see the mountains behind. That church is 26 feet high, but on the proposed site, because the ground slants from literally from the bottom of the building to the top, according to Google Earth, 6 to 7 feet from the beginning of the building to the top of the building. So it will shift 6 to 7 feet. If the bottom to the east end is dug in, it will stay lower next to the red zone area on the highway. But if they do a fill build, then that bottom edge will be higher. So, you know, there's that. So this is again, downtown buildings that we already, you know, see in existence. The retail, Sugar Lump is 36 feet. Grandma's is 32 feet. Mountains are still clearly visible.
Well, thank you, Bianca. I think you've done a lot of work.
Yeah,
I think you've helped it.
Yeah, thank you.
That's good.
Yeah, so that's all. It's just information for whoever used and myself to get a perspective and.
Can I ask another question?
Leslie?
Are these apartment buildings? Are these apartment buildings,
I believe she was talking about,
3 stories?
you know, it could be 2. I don't know.
Or is there a possibility that these could be condos and can be owned as opposed to being rented?
We do have a height limit in town. Okay? So whatever's built can't exceed that. The way Ace Hardware Store is 34 feet with the cupola makes it 36. I got approval for that 20-some years ago, just saying. Okay.
I read the article, and these were just a real short page of the way I took it. And so maybe other people took it that way, and I just wonder if I could just read this on the article, if of the way it would affect the whole project.
Well, certainly you can read that if you'd like.
Okay.
One up here.
I appreciate Bianca's work on this. I think she's done a wonderful job. I think the pictures are great. She's presented it really well. And I did not realize, at least from reading the article, that she had discussed with the people about the rest of the housing project. I don't believe that they really would understand what really meant with the high density. So that's why I was a little bit more concerned. But this project of rezoning will only cover a small number of workforce housing. And so I didn't realize that she pointed that out. But I still don't believe that people that she talked to would realize how impactful the high density for 300 to 600 would be. And however, I think the board and the planning committee needs to still be working on the details about the project as far as sizes and requirements. And I gave you guys my simple list. I hope you will read it before the planning meeting about all the things that should be looked about spaces and things like that. So I'm not going into it because I only have 1 minute. But I think a high density will destroy the looks of Westcliff. The board of trustees, they should have a well-developed plan that keeps the flavor of the community. And 50, you said at least, I'm not real clear remembering, but 50 units at least in the affordable housing. Is that what you guys were saying, Caleb, or more than that?
We have a survey done in 2023 in the county, not just Westcliff. In the county says there's a need for 35 units now and 35 more units in the future. So
So I guess the question is, this little part of affordable, workforce housing, will it be 50 or more units?
Well, I suppose we would start with 50 and then see what the demand was. We aren't gonna own those. Westcliff is not gonna own those. There would be a developer who did, and they would make, that's an economic decision for some developer to make.
But I'm just talking about your property.
Well, there's only so much that our property can accommodate in terms of size.
Right.
So they would probably be apartments, for one. And number two, we're going to engage the developer on this. Their money's going into this, so they want to be able to get some sort of return on that investment. They're not gonna do more than needed.
Right.
More than they can rent.
But are they gonna be family friendly with trees and space, or is it just gonna be buildings? So those were just something I was concerned about. And they need to look at the feel of our community and what's there. And there's a lot of things that zoning needs to decide before just rezoning. Maybe they need to change some things.
No, I completely understand. Okay, any other questions? Caleb?
Yes, Bianca, this goes out to you. I see here, business owners in town, people who work for business owners in town. How many signatures did you end up getting for all of this? It seems, I got a pretty big packet.
So, and the reason I wanted the board to have every signature was there was a comment line in it, so you could read the comments and some of them addressed it. There's 140 signatures in total that I got in 4 days. I only walked the business corridor and approached people at work with permission to talk to people. So starting at Rancher's Roost, going to Tony's and Willie's. Some folks that are, like, for example, there's a couple in there that are owners of electrical contractors, handymen, cooks, waitresses. I did not, out of respect, of course, and, I don't think it's legal. There's no way I would have, but I was approached. I could not go to the school, for example, but I was approached by teachers and explained their situation. Cooks at Chappie's, owners of the restaurants were very vocal. And, EMT, he's like, listen, I got 3 roommates. Cook at Chappie's is like, the owner says, I'm losing cooks again because he's renting a cot in a basement with 3 other guys. Teacher with her 3 children in a 1-bedroom, 2 years in teacher housing, still can't find a place that they can all afford. And express there's other teachers who also don't know where else to live and are thinking about quitting. I won't go on and on, but there are many of those in the comments. And some people are just frustrated. They're like, no, but the rich people in the valley don't care. They just don't care. They don't want to see where we live. They don't want us in town. They don't care if we're working 2 or 3 jobs. They think we're lazy. And I'm just, all I'm doing is reiterating what I was, some of the conversations I had. So that's why I gave you all those papers so you guys could read. I know.
Thank you. Any other comments?
The concern about the appearance of the place may be a reason to follow up on your idea of affordable housing, resolution, not a resolution. Ordinance.
Yeah. More workplace housing.
Excuse me. I know the difference too.
We do need, as I said earlier in the meeting, we need an ordinance that governs it. And we don't have an architectural review ordinance in the town. We could even entertain that, although I know a lot of people are against something like that. But Laura, it's clear that we don't want to destroy the beauty of the community. But we do have a need, as Bianca has pointed out, there is a need. And, we could say, well, where? Some is needed in Westcliff, some is needed in Silver Cliff. We're meeting with the county in Silver Cliff tomorrow. And there's a planning meeting we're having to discuss this very thing. They've been working on one too. And so we should work together on this. If we do ever apply for a grant, it'll be a much stronger grant with multiple entities, political subdivisions are involved. So that's where we are. It's not an easy assignment, gentlemen and ladies. It's just not. We hear things from everybody, and yet we still have a problem we need to address. We're trying to do that. So anyway, that's where we are. Anything else to come before the good of the group regarding that?
Is the system working in Salida?
Excuse me?
Is the system working in Salida with all our low income?
I don't know, Brad. I can't.
Okay. I just wanted to point out, I've been listening to the Salida station, and they got ads on the radio for teachers, for bus drivers, for firemen. They can't fill them, so I don't think the systems are working.
I know they have a lot of tiny homes there on the east side of Salida, right?
Correct.
And I don't know how they're doing. I don't know if they're selling.
They still got,
So I just don't know.
it's
I'd
on.
like to make a comment on that. There used to be a magazine, the Colorado Central, published out of Salida. I don't think it exists anymore, but 15 years ago, Salida was confused by what they should be doing because already groovy place, right? Good restaurants, the river. And I used to be amazed if you came off the highway to go downtown, if you drove down around, there were hard living people in those trailers. There are hard living people. So I don't know if they're getting that working or not, but it's got to be addressed one way or the other.
And another thing, growing up was low income was trailer parks, was a trailer park, right? Except everybody paid their own way at trailer parks. They paid their rent, they bought their homes. They didn't have none of this government subsidies.
See, what I've been curious about,
And have you guys, anybody drove through that trailer park lately?
I think it's disappearing, isn't it?
They don't look very good, I know that.
I know.
I hope that don't happen over here.
Well, it's a question
I
of
think
what
we
the
need it.
landlords
There
are
is no,
doing.
I think we need it. There's no doubt, but
Okay.
we don't need it. Double our size of our town.
Okay, if we're through with that, staff reports?
I've got one, the Colorado Municipal League is having their district meeting September 12th in Canyon City. So if any of you want to attend, let me know and I'll get you registered. And Caleb, you go.
Not
You,
2025.
September 12th.
you going to go? You personally gonna go?
I don't know.
And the town pays for the meals for you and your spouse.
email
I have a
me.
root canal scheduled for that day, so.
And I'll email you guys the flyer also, so you have it.
All right.
That's all.
Yes, sir, quite a few. I'm gonna go ahead and touch back on to the HSIP grant we applied for earlier this year. And why, I kind of wanted to let you know some information that I just actually learned. So I went to the TPR meeting, which is basically a CDOT meeting for the region. And they described the grant, and it was only one other grant application, which was Canyon City. So the grant max is $2.7 million. So what that told me is that, one, we were asking for not enough. And then two, it was really not that much of a contested grant, and it's meant to be on highways. This was not. So I am going to be applying next year, and we can have more talks about this later, but to put curb gutter and sidewalk from Main Street down to, I don't know if I can do both sides, depending on the funds, but from Main Street on 69 down to the gas station, in order to, instead of it flooding over the highway, getting into the residences, bringing it south, down to Hermit, or even bringing it down to Hermit into the creek, or then even bringing it down where the, almost like that ridge line is, just south of the gas station. So just to let you know, I will be applying for that grant next year. We did talk about that earlier. I'll be applying for that every year until we get told yes. So that is a little update on that. I thought that was pretty interesting. Just Price Park. I figure we might want to open that up for the board to talk. Last time I did check, and I apologize, Mr. Maury, you are correct, and Paul, I should have brought this before the board, but whether or not, no, I can't take, you can direct me, at least in my report, on whether or not we should open the park up for the opening to the farmer's market or not, or if this is something I'm going to talk about right now.
Well, they're welcome to attend, of course.
Mhm.
Now, the opening is Friday, is it not?
Yes, sir.
Right during the farmer's market.
Yes, sir.
So,
But are they gonna set up tents in Just Price Park?
So they haven't reached out to me as far as, or, Aaron, let me know if I'm wrong, as far as the usage to get the permit for the park. So that's a no. So I don't know how they're gonna take it. I did, ask them if they would, be interested in reopening back into the park. And I did talk to Paul about it, and they are interested on hosting it back and, having their events back in the park. So I think it's probably time we discuss that, since the last meeting we had.
My only concern was if you do it same day as the ribbon cutting, you're gonna have all their tents up doing that. We're inviting the public to come in and see what we've done in the park. And it's gonna be very hard to be able to see that. I was just thinking maybe we should have it, the farmer's market, if we're gonna have them come back, which I assume we are, maybe not the same day as ribbon cutting.
well, how many more days are they gonna be having it anyway? It's getting to the end of the year. So,
But earlier in the year, we discussed that we really didn't want them back into the park because of all the damage that they caused to the old park. So, and I know we talked about Second Street, other things like that, but I think before next year, we need to really sit down and talk about that and see, but I am quite concerned that all that landscaping just went in. None of it's root bound, that grass is, you walk onto that grass, it's gonna slip right out from underneath you. So right now, they've got those stakes around the edge. Is there any way us putting?
Yes,
yellow-
my guys are doing that currently.
Oh,
That
okay.
will be happening before the ribbon cutting.
Good, at least they'll try to help keep them off the grass and off the flowers and everything.
If I were, if you wanted, a suggestion, I would advise that, if not the end of this year, then possibly letting them and going back in for next year. And the reasons are is because, kind of built the park around, especially on the corners, right? You've got the stones, people would walk through the grass, definitely built the park around having a larger amount of people there. So, having them there historically, kicking them off, making the changes so that they come back, almost could be perceived as a waste. So
Well, how about this?
we can,
Yes, sir. Oh, I thought you were done.
I was just, we can, I can put this on the agenda, maybe we can have it for later, or So I got the directive of not having there for the ribbon cutting. But what about for the remainder of the year?
Well, I think that Randy makes a good point about letting things get established in there before we invite that kind of usage. People are gonna use it now that it's open clearly. And I suggested to Caleb that we get more picnic tables. I think there are 2 now or 3.
Working on that, yes, sir. We will get more picnic tables.
Here's what I was gonna say on, I went down to the market a couple weeks ago and I counted how many setups there were. And I also remember that when we designed this, we did think that if you're looking at the park from Main Street, on the left, there's quite a wide area from the bathroom down to the parking lot.
Yes.
And we thought that could be a place where people could set up there as well as in others.
Yes, sir.
So maybe the Parks Committee or you, or well, your Parks Committee too, we ought to go talk to the farmer's market about how many tables and some space for people to gather would they think at a minimum would be worth it. And then we ought to go and, well, not chop some things out, but see where they would be and see what's feasible. And if we come up with a plan that makes sense to both, then maybe we can consider letting them use it again. As long as they're not on the grass.
I would say next year, because people are gonna be on that grass. I just let them let stuff get established. I mean, that's the end of, we're gonna coming up to the end of August here. So I don't know how much longer they're gonna be open anyway.
Well, there's gonna be all the apples and stuff from Canyon in there. I bet you they'll be operating another 3-4 weeks, wouldn't you think? Maybe
It's
you
the
need to find out.
end of September, I know that.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, something else, Caleb?
Yes, sir.
King?
Before you leave the park, there's a safety issue with, I feel, with the curb. It's lost through the construction. It's yellow, no parking area. And I've been at the park a lot, so when you pull out from beside the park onto Main Street, the visibility is really poor between having the planter there and then having cars parked there. Again, you can't really see to pull out. Would it be possible to get that curb repainted?
yes, so can we meet afterwards so I know exactly where that is? Thank you. I will definitely, I can get that addressed. Stop signs, all right, so put up the stop sign on Second and Edwards, was it? Second and Edwards.
Yep.
So I did reach out to Clay to see if that was something we should be continuing in the future. Now it's up to the board whether or not you want to continue doing this. You have the MFR, so please, if you could read the MFR after the meeting.
I'd like to comment on those stop signs.
Yes, please.
There is a large portion of the population that actually makes government-approved stops. There's a lot of country stops, and there's a small number that just blast through there. Whether they just don't see it because they're not used to it, or you ain't telling me what to do, I don't know. But I live on the corner. But one way or the other, it has really slowed down the traffic because I used to get really scared in the summer when the grandkids were up here and there's people blasting down 50 miles an hour on that street. So I applaud you guys for putting that in.
Thank you. That will go to Mike and Neil as well as on the crossings on Main for that as well. Training, I will be reaching out to you soon on more training. I did get some dates from, for board training. We have some new faces, so we probably need to get some board training going down. I'm reaching out to you to get with Clay on some board training here. I did have some dates available, so be aware of that. Check your emails within this next week. Okay. House Bill 24-131, I will be introducing something to the board for next month's agenda. It is on House Bill 24-131. Hopefully I got those numbers right. Basically, it is whether or not the municipality wants to allow firearms within the town hall. We were going to present it here, but we only put it in the town handbook when it needed to be almost in a resolution or an ordinance. So you'll have both versions of that to allow or to not allow. All right.
I think we allowed it at all.
We were gonna have it on this agenda, but
There's no ordinance.
then there wasn't really time. We both wanted to talk with Clay and get a better understanding of it.
All right, another one, Chaffa. So I got reached out to on, I think it was maybe the 6th of August when the grant was due on the 9th of August. It was a no-cost grant. So usually I do go to the board, and I apologize, Paul, I at least should have notified you, but Chaffa has a grant for technical assistance to do a lot of things. And this grant is for exact details. go to the description. Eligible activities are community engagement. This is for the Proposition 123 buildings. So community engagement, market studies, site identification, site visibility, soil study, environmental site assessment, project visioning, and conceptualization, finance modeling, real estate planning, cost estimating, architect and design concepts, and energy efficiency performance modeling. So Chaffel will come in for free, give us whatever we need from that for these to be able to help before we put out an RFP for developer if the time comes. So I know that was a request a lot. I would like to get it done earlier. The grant application wasn't open earlier during that time, so now I finally applied for it. So we'll have some good news hopefully here soon.
Energy efficiency was one of the.
Yes, sir. They're an EIAF grant. They look for energy impact, but regardless, if you have energy efficient windows, heaters, building insulation, you score higher on it. All right, also signed up for the subdivision participation and release form. This, I did go to Clay to make sure we were good to go. This is an opioid settlement that could be coming to close soon, and there could be some monies coming back from that. So I did apply for the town to be a recipient of those funds. So if the settlement does come, the town could be receiving some opioid settlement from Kroger. Okay, but that is it.
Sorry.
Does that come back to the towns and not the county or both?
Well, from what I understand to be the town, we signed on ourselves, so that money can be coming back from the town as a show of good faith if and when we ever do get the funds.
Actually, may I speak, Mayor? When we originally did it, because we didn't have any programs, we turned it over to the county, not the
Right.
town. On the one we signed back then, we would not receive anything.
Mhm.
So I don't know what the change is.
So we can do the same thing here, but it depends when we get the funds. We'll talk about it, see what to do.
Yeah, are those funds restricted in their use?
I do not think so. Not that I have not heard of that. I can get back to you on that, but
Yeah. I mean, it's opioid funds, right?
yes, sir. So that is it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, very good. Anything else that comes before the good of the group? Yes, sir.
Quick question and concern, going back to the master plan. In one of the tables where it's talking about bikeability, it uses the phrase Old West Cliff with a capital O, Old West Cliff. That kind of infers that somewhere there's a new West Cliff. Is that a plan behind the plan, or what is Old West
You
Cliff?
know, define old, I guess.
They're talking about the board.
Your Old West Cliff. Okay.
So Old West Cliff is generally First through Sixth Street, when the town was originally platted and built. So anywhere from Main, from First through Sixth, that's what was referred to as Old West Cliff.
Okay. The other one is a concern in the master plan. In the beginning, it talks about the importance of a viable school system
Yes.
to attract a young workforce.
Yes.
And then there's a number of places in the plan where it refers to the school system as more of a detriment than an asset. Because it grades D on the school system, and there's a couple of places in there.
I guess I never saw that.
Yeah.
There's a table where the school system is rated D.
Yes, that was not a town rated. That was actually taken from multiple sources.
And young couples looking to move here and start businesses are going to be looking at school system, and so that's sad for me because I'm a graduate of this school, and I hate to see it referred to as a detriment to the town. There's a new superintendent in town at the school, and the town obviously has workforce needs, and a lot of our high school graduates leave, and then we hire high school graduates from other places to come. Is there an effort to contact the superintendent, say, what can the town, the county do to change that? I know it's a school system, it's got its requirements, but this town needs that school. Is there anything the
Well,
town?
you lose your school, you lose your town.
Yeah. So what can the town of Westcliff do to support the school?
I don't know what we can do, but we can certainly talk to them.
I'd like to know what the superintendent would say to that.
You know, it's a circular thing, but definitely there are teachers that are struggling to live here money-wise. We're back to the worker probably making. Right. I mean, the school built, a place over by the Mormon church, I think, right? A couple years ago.
Bobcat Quad.
Yeah. And I don't know if that really helped enough teachers to hang out or not. I don't know.
Well, and teachers used to stay in the little cabins that are now Zeta's or whatever those restaurants are.
Frog Motel.
Yeah, they used to live there when I was.
Really?
When I read that through the master plan, do we really need to have in there about the schools being a detriment? It seemed like that is not a good thing for the master plan to
I
have.
agree. I'd strike that
It
out.
bothered me when I read it.
I would agree with that too. I would eliminate that.
That's a visual thing, but if there's a problem there, the problem ought to be addressed.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But I'm not sure if it should even be in the master plan. We should do it behind the, go to the superintendent, see what we can do. I totally agree with you.
Well, yes, I agree, George, and it doesn't, cost us anybody to sit down and talk
Yeah.
and find out what their needs are, how we can help them, and so on and so forth. The superintendent's new, so it's gonna take some time for them to get their grounding too, so, but clearly, I'm for it.
I could put some wording in there as well in the master plan if you would all like to see something like that. Westcliff will be encouraged or should be encouraged to have talks with the school to.
Well, yes, but take the D out.
Yes, yeah, all that grading will be done.
Is the master plan posted online?
Is it online, the plan?
Is it online?
It's under Board of Trustees minutes, and then you have to kind of do a click, 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 and then you get 106 pages. Be ready.
Well, I can find it, I just wanted to know.
The marked up copies on there, yes.
And it's not been approved yet, that's what we brought it to the meeting for tonight, so it's been tabled till next week, or next month. And we'll see what the changes are then, okay? So, anything else to come before the good of the group? Motion to adjourn? Mark? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, folks, for coming.
Thank you.